Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me here. I am joined on stage by Marlene Amstad, the chair of the Swiss Financial Markets Authority, FINMA, Tuong Lee Tim, Assistant Managing Director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore and Chair of IOSCO's FinTech Task Force, and Tuhin Kanta Pandey, Chair of India's Securities and Exchange Board. First, I want to kick off just very broadly. We've obviously talked a lot about a lot of different issues in the previous panel. I just want to give you the opportunity to interject on any of the themes we've discussed. I mean, the floor is really open and yours. Maybe if I go to you first.
Thanks. Good afternoon and good everyone. Thanks to the EMF for the invitation. Very happy to be here. Yes, just a quick thought on the part on risks, but very important. Professor Rama talked a lot about what are some of the micro and macro risks. So essentially, this is something that we have addressed we have addressed in our 2021 report, and also in going forward, what are some of the supervisory guidance or toolkit that we want to provide to our member jurisdictions from IOSCO. So this is something that I could go on, but I suppose these are some of my quick reactions, and I can touch on them later on as we go on through the panel. Thanks.
Perfect. Marlene, anything you want to come in on from the previous session?
Well, first of all, also thanks a lot for the invitation and for the organization of this excellent conference. So listening to the previous speakers, I believe it really underpins that artificial is not just yet another tool. It really is a very fundamental technology. And personally, I would not compare it to mobile phone. I think before there was a comparison with mobile phones or even the internet. I believe it's even more fundamental. It should be more compared to the microprocessor, because the mobile phone, they rely on the internet, and the internet builds on the microprocessor. And also what we heard in the previous panel is it also illustrates that when we have these very fundamental technologies, that it really spans, that the impact spans the full spectrum, from very, very beneficial to really harmful. And to me, that basically means that no one can ignore artificial intelligence. Certainly no financial institution, no supervisor, and also no human intelligence should or can afford to ignore artificial intelligence.
Tuhin, any thoughts?
Well, I think it was a very educative session, and we had very good observation from industry. In a way, I think this session will be continuation of that exercise in trying to learn AI, how to make use of AI without, how to take it and take into account the risks as well as the opportunities that AI offers. And I think from the regulator's point of view, the industry point of view, everyone's point of view is important at this point, but I think we will be looking at the same issues over and over again.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about your ongoing work. Tuong Lee, you're obviously chair of the IOSCO FinTech Task Force. You're working on AI. Talk me through your work there and sort of your main findings.
Thanks. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a 2020, let's take a step back. There was a 2021 report that was published, and it touched on the key aspects of principles that we need to look at when looking at AI. And they're still very relevant today. So let me just touch very quickly. First, it's senior management responsibility. Just now, Valerie talked about governance. So who is the human on the hook, right? We talk about human in the loop. So who's the human in the hook? And who's responsible ultimately, right? And of course, the need for continuous testing. The models themselves, it can be black box, as Professor Rama said. How do you continuously test the models to make sure that they continue to work? To make sure that you have the in-house expertise. Do you have the experts and the necessary personnel to know what's going on? And fourth, if you're using third-party products, how do you oversee them to make sure that they're still relevant and still playing the roles properly? Fourth, next is, do you have proper disclosures on the use of AI when you're interacting with your clients? Are you letting your clients know that AI is being deployed. And finally, which was also touched on by the previous panel, data. Do you use high quality data? And how do you make sure that your data is unbiased? So these are the 6 principles that continue to be very relevant today. But what has changed since 2021? Essentially, the advent of large language models. And of course, we all know ChatGPT that was released November 2022. Now it's grown exponentially. Within 5 days, they had clocked 1 million users. And I just checked, as of May this year, it has 800 million users per week and 2.5 billion prompts per day. So it's really grown exponentially, large language models and generative AI. So we talked about opportunities and risks just now. So what are some of the opportunities? We look at a more sophisticated analysis, ability to trawl through large data and information, better fraud detection. So by using all the, what do we call it, computational power. New risks, we just talked about it as well. What are some of the model risks that can arise from the use of AI or Gen AI? Higher dependency on tech solution providers, also misinformation when it comes to hallucination. So this, so we published a later report earlier this year in March 2025, entitled AI in Capital Markets, Use Cases, Risks and Challenges. So we kind of updated the 2021 report on what are some of the new use cases. There are a few that we see: robo-advisory, algorithmic trading, investment research, sentiment analysis, and also in compliance, the use of AI to be deployed in AML CFT compliance work. A lot of it is also being used in task automation internally, chatbots interfacing with clients, and also for risk management purposes. In the use of generative AI, however, mostly it has been deployed internally. Less external deployment yet, but of course this may change, right? As per the last panel, you know, look at if there's a business case, the costs are coming down, and if it's a strong business case, we can see more and more use of generative AI externally. So, so you mentioned a little bit about what are some of the things that we're looking at observing across some of the regulatory environments that we see. So I just mentioned 3 broad ones. One regulatory response is to use existing frameworks to kind of govern the use of AI, right? Basically, no change in rules. Just use existing frameworks to govern AI. You essentially use approaching it with a tech-neutral lens. So that's one way. The other way is some jurisdictions are using the same framework but overlaying it with regulatory guidance on specific mention of how AI can be deployed in a responsible way. Thirdly, the more AI bespoke approach would be something like what Europe has done, using the AI Act, specific regulations, specific legislation on the use of AI. So IOSCO is generally agnostic to how member jurisdictions apply some of these principles that he has pronounced. But there are a few key priorities from IOSCO's angle. One, investor education and investor harm, to prevent investor harm. So that's one key priority. Second, to strengthen collaboration. This was mentioned in the previous panel, but collaboration across jurisdictions to exchange information, exchange supervisory best practice, right? And third, what are some of the technical assistance that we can offer to member jurisdictions to upskill across the board so that we are more or less on the same page across different jurisdictions? I'll just end there for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Let's get some of those jurisdictional perspectives now. Marlene, what are you seeing on the ground in Switzerland? I mean, what is the use cases of AI in finance that you're observing?
Well, to some extent, I must admit that I feel that Switzerland has a first row seat in artificial intelligence when it's within finance, because we are recognized as a global financial center. We are focusing very much on wealth management, but maybe a little bit less known for, but also very much on insurance. And both wealth management and insurance are especially prone and affected by large language models and by large data models. And furthermore, we also as FINMA, we are an integrated supervisor, so we supervise a little bit more than 200 banks, little bit less than 200 insurance companies, 10,000 funds, 150 platforms. And to learn more about these different financial service providers and how they apply artificial intelligence, we started early with more or less yearly surveys. And just three observations from these latest surveys. I think that the first is really that the majority across the banks, insurance companies, asset managers already use artificial intelligence. What's really very impressive is the speed at which they increase to use artificial intelligence. So in the case of Switzerland overall, over banks, insurance companies and asset managers, for every use case already deployed, we have 2 in development. So it's almost exponential development, and so that's certainly something also for us as regulators and supervisors, which is very important, because any movement and development which is almost exponentially or moving very fast, of course we monitor very closely. The second observation aside from speed is that we see that the application of artificial intelligence gets somewhat more comprehensive. So it used to be the case that the workflow is partitioned in different parts, and it used to be the case that you have one part and on top of it you lay artificial intelligence layer. So you automate one part within the workflow, and that's less and less the case. More and more it really, artificial intelligence is right at the center of the workflow, and the workflow is basically built around artificial intelligence. So with the changed workflow, also the value chain changes, and with that also the focus of the managers on what part of the workflow they focus is changing. And this, by the way, is also a little bit triggered by consumers, because consumers catch up. They also more and more enabled by artificial intelligence. So just in quote, to automate one part of the workflow, this is possible more and more also for the consumers and not just for the financial service providers. And the last point is focusing on risk. There, the financial institutions particularly focus on data risk, because data is always at the core of artificial intelligence. And we see that they start to more and more start to define so-called no-fly zones. So zones where it's clearly there is the human in the loop, and there we're gonna never apply artificial intelligence. And it's going to be very important also to learn and to define a way what exactly are those parts that will not be touched by artificial intelligence, and how they interact with those parts that actually do. And maybe the final observation. Data is really at the core of artificial intelligence. Without data, all the intelligence is not that useful anymore. And we see that also when we compare the different sectors. So we see that insurance companies, as of now, are a little bit ahead of the banks, and we assume that this might be related to the fact that insurance companies have a very long tradition of harvesting data and also make sure that the data quality is very high, and so we believe that that might be the reason for this observation that as of now insurance companies are even moving faster than banks.
Tuhin, is this also something that you're seeing on the ground in India? I mean, what are your reflections on sort of the use cases of AI in your jurisdiction?
So first of all, I think just to give the context, India is rapidly growing in terms of securities markets. We have 130 million unique investors and 200 million demat accounts. Just to give you the scale of growth, in 5 years ago, 2019, there were only 45 million unique investors, and now we have 130 million. As regards the digitalization of payment, 45% of the world's digital transactions happen in India today. So that also, brings up a great opportunity as well as the risks for investor outcomes, as well as for the regulatory oversight. So some of the use cases which are, financial institutions and SEBI regulator, we are at various stages of AI adoption. Some of the use cases, they're largely basically to improve turnaround time and to improve process efficiency. For example, the one which is being done is KYC and fraud detection. Because you can see the scale of KYC which needs to be done in terms of the numbers, so therefore AI helps. So we use OCR, which is the optical character recognition, and signature verification testing automatically, which can take the physical documents if it required, with matching with that. Can also do fraud detection in terms of redemptions, forging signatures that can be actually easily matched, so you can process the redemptions faster using these tools. The second set of use cases are personalized risk appetite-based recommendations and chatbots. This is for both investor education as well as for advice. On the regulatory side, on the RegTech, SupTech, and surveillance side, we are actually having some innovative solutions. The first of all is like processing of offer documents for verifying compliance with disclosure requirements. So, as you know, India is a very active primary market. We had we have done 350 IPOs last year, and equally, these IPOs are also this year also is a frantic pace of IPOs. So obviously, I think expectation is that the regulator clears these IPOs fast, and we have use the AI tools in order to process the documents faster so that we can come out with observations in a short time. The second tool which we have deployed is AI-powered advertisement review tool to check misrepresentation. Since we have a large mutual fund industry, large asset management companies, for their own good as well as for the regulator's point of view, we really need the tools in order to very quickly find out whether a particular advertisement material, and tons of advertisement material, in order to see whether there is a misrepresentation and whether the regulatory compliance is achieved. So this is quite an effective tool being deployed. The third tool, which is actually in a testing phase, is to have abnormal trading behavior analysis for market surveillance. This is an important tool because it combines both the data analytics and visualization in order to find out the trading behavior so that that can be escalated for proper oversight. And the fourth is, again, AI-driven fund distributor oversight alerts. Because the fund managers, the fund distributors, they would be taking up a number of steps, but if we really have a switch in and switch out behavior which is quite abnormal, this can be automatically be detected for the supervisors and oversight review. So these are currently the ones which we have been using as use cases, but there will be plenty of such cases coming out from India.
You're already anticipating my next topic, which is to get into the supervisory perspective on these issues. Tuong Lee, can you talk me through sort of the next steps for IOSCO, also MAS, in terms of managing these risks, or developing more tools to assist AI developments in finance? I mean, do you think, could we be on a path to global minimum standards? Is this a realistic conversation to be having?
Thanks. Well, you can see that there are different, we talked about top-down and bottom-up just now in the previous panel at the firm level. I think we should also look at it from the regulatory perspective, right? The individual jurisdictions, as I mentioned earlier, have different methods and different frameworks to kind of address AI. So at the same time, there could also be some level of convergence at the international level. So I think some level of convergence is helpful, because for cross-border operations by global financial institutions, for example, you have operating in different jurisdictions, some level of baselining is helpful, because otherwise it can lead to costly operations, and it's very hard to harmonize across borders. So that's what we are working on in IOSCO Phase 2 of the FinTech Task Force in AI. So we're looking towards building what we call supervisory toolkit to allow for what we call member jurisdictions to have a view to how to address some of these risks arising from AI, so that we can have a common kind of a menu that we can look towards. It's not fully standardized, because as we know, in risks can manifest differently, right? In different markets, there's contextual application in different jurisdictions, and also different types of market segments. But what we hope to do is to provide some degree of commonality, while allow for some diversity. So what we hope to be able to do is to give what we call some guideposts on some of the questions that supervisors can ask to the financial institutions when they look at supervising them. For example, how do you keep the human in the loop? And Marlene discussed that just now in the earlier panel also, about how humans should be in the process. AI cannot replace humans, right? To some extent it can, but at the end of the day, there must be humans involved in the process, be it at the ultimate decision making or some form of governance. So how do you keep the human in the loop? That's one. What are some of the governance best practices? What are some of the red lines? What are the data quality assurance process? And also, in some of the supervisory focuses may differ depending on the type of business that the platform is using AI in. So, what do you call it? A trading platform versus a asset management platform versus a broker-dealer platform. The usage of AI will differ. What are some of the questions that we can ask in the usage of AI in this different type of usage? So basically, our Phase 1 report is to establish common understanding, right? What are some of the use cases? What are some of the common applications and common risks? Then Phase 2, we are looking into supervisory toolkits and guidance, right, to employ that supervisors can employ when supervising financial institutions. So maybe just to take a little bit of example from what we have done in Singapore, is basically a collaborative process that we have done with the industry. In 2018, we came up with what we call the FEAT principles, F-E-A-T, fairness, ethics, accountability, and transparency, for the use of machine learning and data, which will feed into the use of AI. So this is kind of like principles that we have given to the industry on how they should manage data and machine learning, including the use of AI. So that is slowly being evolved or into what we call Project Mindforge. It's a consortium of industry players, 35 financial institutions, and we are also in the process. So basically, the principles are kind of like evergreen, but how do they use the principles and then apply them into what we call again, industry toolkits, industry guidance on how to implement them in the use of generative AI. So that's currently in process, and there's going to be a publication soon if it's not published already. So this is both a collaborative effort, both from the regulator and the industry to create something meaningful and useful and practical for the industry in the use of AI, and more specifically generative AI. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Marlene, I'm going to sort of flip the script on you and ask actually how regulators are using technology and AI for more effective supervision.
So subtech or supervisory technology, so when supervisors use artificial intelligence, that's becoming very quickly a huge topic, and there are two main drivers, I believe. The first one is that basically law is a large language model. So the legal framework is very close to large language models, so it's clear that this will be heavily affected, kind of how we change and how we adapt the legal framework. There are a lot of interactions with this type of tools. And the second driver is budgetary concerns. So all the supervisory authorities, I believe, it's fair to say that are facing some tight budgets, and then of course it comes in handy to leverage then each and every staff member. And it was my pleasure that together with the IOSCO Secretariat, we conducted the survey under the IOSCO members. And the survey responses was was excellent. So we covered about 2/3 of the global financial market, and maybe just the three main findings. The first one, the first question we looked into, who actually applies artificial intelligence among the supervisory authority, and the answer is it's clearly global. So all the supervisory authorities already use some sort of subtech and also some sort of artificial intelligence. We specifically looked into the question whether artificial intelligence or subtech is closing or even further widening the gap between different jurisdictions. And the results point into the direction that it actually closes the gap between jurisdictions. So it enables in a similar way than the different jurisdictions. The goals, the first goal is, of course, more or less to do the same thing, but cheaper and faster. So more efficiency, more effectiveness. But apart from this very obvious goal, there is more and more also the goal to gain insights, so to do new things, to things that are previously processes that were previously analytical work that previously was not possible. I will mention here just the hottest topic right now is the topic of digital assets, and the question how we as supervisor can use these modern technologies to supervise and monitor the digital assets. So that's definitely something that gains a lot of traction and a lot of interest. The general direction here definitely is, as Tuang Le already mentioned, that the human in the loop is supported and not substituted. So it's not that we as previously was mentioned also in the panel for the industry, the end of the end of the decision, there always needs to be a human who takes this decision. So no robocops, so to say. And maybe the last finding I want to mention is the technology, which type of technology is used by supervisory authorities, and there we clearly see that artificial intelligence is the great enabler, so to say. What's also interesting, comes out at the end of this list, and these are actually DLT technologies. I found this very interesting because probably if we would have had this panel 4 years ago or so, we would have focused on DLT technologies, and it's just a reminder how quickly these technologies also can change. And overall, I believe that it's clearly showing that this is the time for cooperation among supervisory authorities, how to use artificial intelligence, less in the sense of best practice or standards, because jurisdictions are very different, markets are very different, but definitely more cooperation in the sense of sharing experiences, and there artificial intelligence is going to be of great importance.
Thank you. We are racing through our time slot, so I'll come to Tuhin for the last word. I mean, you've talked about the sort of differences in the markets in India, how quickly it's growing, how rapidly it's digitalizing. How do you adapt your supervisory priorities to a market that's changing so quickly?
I think the first is actually the financial inclusion part, where we have, as I said, only 9.5% of the Indian households are currently invested in securities market, and after the survey which has just been completed, a very large-scale survey, reveals that 22% of households are ready to go in for securities market in the next 1 year. And 63% are aware of the securities market. So that really gives us a very important task of investor awareness. And we are a multilingual country, so we have to reach out to the language. And we have actually asked those questions of the people. And they do have preferences, other than English, into going into their local languages. So we find that AI has a very big use there. In fact, some of the fintech industry have really gone to not only the languages, but also to the dialect within the languages, and sending it out those messages through digital mobile phones and so on. So if we are able to crack it, I think there's a very big opportunity that we have in terms of awareness. Of course, greater efficiency in compliance reporting, investor grievance redressal, and combating the menace of social media-driven scams, where, of course, we have been successful with the help of platform providers, Google and Meta, in taking down some of the mischief which is generated through these. And there we are using AI tools to find out the videos which have got the malcontent in order to take down. And an average rate is about 5,000 per month we are taking down. But requesting the platform providers to actually develop their own intelligent tools. So that currently we are developing the tools in order to see that where some of the keywords and messages they can transcript and take down, because I think India is a very large user base for Facebook, Insta, and other platforms which are being used to some of them misguide the people who are wanting to come to the market. So there's one important issue we have done is algorithm-based alert monitoring system for inspections. So our off-site inspection system, we used to do the sample, but we are able to do the 100% inspection coverage using the alert systems. So therefore, it's an off-site, it is not very intrusive, but at the same time, it also helps the industry. Of course, as I said, on surveillance side, there is we have actually used a data warehouse and business intelligence system in order to and actually the data mining actually at a petabyte scale. So it's a very large kind of data mining and analytics which is used. So this is, of course, inside our thing. And there, I think development of AI is also not possible exactly because these data are really private data, and therefore it rests with us. It can't be shared. So it has to have own tooling, like we have to use some of the models and train on our data on our own instead of exposing it in the LLM basis. Risks, there are also significant risks. For example, when we use all of these technologies, there's a risk of mis-selling and over-personalization, including on advice, and then bias and data quality issues, and of course, data privacy and cyber-resilience. So there are also a lot of risks around AI. What we have done is we have recently released a principle-based consultation paper to guide responsible deployment of AI ML to ensure that AI enhances efficiency without compromising market integrity or investor protection. But we need to have a lot of dialogue with industry, and we have these fora for dialogue in which we can actually develop the AI for the more benign usage and see their risks are mitigated.
Thank you so much. We could talk about this all day, but we'll have to take those conversations to the coffee break. We will see you all back here at 4:10. Enjoy the coffee break, and let's have a big hand for our panelists.